Hello, I'm Michael Mayer from VocalWisdom.com, and in this video I want to talk about opening the mouth. Obviously when we sing we open the mouth, but how do we do it? I think it's something that's kind of left to chance, maybe a little bit more than it should be. I'm reminded of a quote from the Lamperti teaching in one of my favorite reference books, Vocal Wisdom, is singers. He says that singers are put out on stage before they even know how to open their mouth, and there's some truth to that. I think still to this day, there is a particular way of opening the mouth that is more effective than just letting it be however. And the reason is because we're dealing with an acoustic instrument, and the acoustics of that instrument are influenced by how we open the mouth. So it takes, it has value to take a little time and work with that and try to get this to be done in as effective of a way as we can. All right, so what is this? So how do we open the mouth? There's a couple, there's a couple steps to it that I find helpful and important to get us to the quality that we want. As I've said in other instances, the jaw, right? The bones create structure, so the jaw opening is the starting point for opening the mouth. It also has some relation to our release of the throat, feeling a hollow, empty airway. That's going to have that's going to be a part of the situation, and also being mindful of having the openness in the high resonance area of the nasal passages, and that's the feeling of smelling that I talk about. And so when we do that, there's a little lift. It's also a different way of addressing that same thing is the feeling of being about to sneeze. When we sneeze, we get this lift, and it kind of achoo. Okay, so there's a little hint of that. Now it shouldn't be so much that we look distorted, right? We shouldn't be squinting. We shouldn't be lifting so much that we, we should never look funny. We should still look, fairly pleasant. In fact, if we do this right, it actually is a pleasant expression rather than a squint or a grimace or something else like that. We certainly don't want to be with a real drawn down where we're pulling the face down with the jaw, right? So like I've talked about before, we want to feel like we're starting with the jaw. We want to feel like the jaw is opening both up and down. So the bottom part of the jaw goes down, obviously, but the top part of the jaw, which is the upper mandible, goes up. It's kind of like what we do when we're about to bite into an apple. We usually, when we're taking a bite out of something, we tend to naturally lift the upper teeth to get them over the top and bring them down into the food. So it's sort of this kind of similar sort of thing to feel open the mouth by lifting the upper part and let the bottom part stretch down away from that. So I've often referred to that as, think of opening the mouth up rather than just down. Now the down part is kind of automatic. That's why I say we should think about the up part, because that's not real natural for us to do unless we're taking a bite out of something. And so we can refer back to that. But when we sing, we don't tend to do that. We tend to go either leaving the mouth dull or dropping the jaw. And you can hear how the tongue drops with it and it gets really dull. Now, a good vocal form does seem dull when we speak. See, that's kind of dull there. But then, that doesn't sound dull. That sounds vibrant. But it's not overly bright either. So those, finding, experimenting and finding this combination that really gives you the greatest acoustic energy. Because just opening, that resonates in not the most effective way. See, there's a little bit more lift there. That's too forward. So getting that combination of stretch, up versus down. Sometimes what happens is we'll actually open really generously, but then we'll open too early, and it will be kind of disjointed, disconnected from our natural pronunciation. So it'll be like this. And now I can't get the vibration to behave naturally because the jaw is so extended that I just can't seem to. It kind of disconnects from the natural expression, the natural activation of the larynx. So what we want to do is we want to open as naturally as possible. We open in order to say what it is we're saying. So we don't want to stay closed, but we don't want to open just arbitrarily. We want to you hear, maybe you can tell, hopefully you can tell, you hear that vibration, the vibration of the voice is much more complete when I open just reflexively, rather than when I open deliberately before. My breath is going through the glottis too much. When I open just as a natural part of saying the vowel, you can hear now, you can hear then the vibration is starting much more cleanly because it's a natural expression. I'm saying much more generously than I would if I was just speaking it. But I'm opening in order to say it rather than separating them. See, we want to learn how to behave naturally. And that sounds funny to say, because shouldn't behaving naturally be natural to do? But the reality is it's not. So we need to teach ourselves, and we want to learn how to behave naturally. So we don't just open the jaw, 3 seconds before we start pronouncing. Because then the breath just goes through and we don't get a clean vibration. We also don't keep the jaw closed and squeeze the throat. What I found it really helpful to do is open, have a general opening, and then see how I'm stretching as I start saying the vowel. E rather than E, A, rather than A. And not just staying the same, not squeezing, but starting and then stretching as the voice starts. A, O, O, ooh. That's a really nice way to make sure that we never squeeze, is to stretch a little bit in the opening direction from basically open to all the way open, as you start the voice, as you say the vowel. That's a really nice way to make sure that you never grab and constrict or contract. You're always stretching. You want to always stretch as you start the voice and not contract. And that keeps us from grabbing hold. Lengthening. And also, maybe you notice my torso is just reacting naturally to that same gesture. When it contracts, the torso shortens too. When I'm thinking of lengthening and stretching, the torso stretches. I get a little taller. And then the throat's much more free and the larynx is free to vibrate. Okay? So how you open the mouth matters. And so always include a little time to remind yourself, E, O, keeping that little lift. It actually, I used to talk a lot about the face, alongside the nose, but also it can really just be just this little bit right under the nose. Ah, ah, because we don't want that. Ah, 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 ah. So we just, to keep it more subtle, I like to now just kind of feel just that little lift under the nose. Ah, and then stretch the jaw. Okay? So play with that, see what happens, and I hope that's helpful for you. Okay? Thanks a lot.